Now, even the banks have lost control. They are frantically rushing to unload their housing stocks, triggering a flood of price cuts that shocks everyone. Families involved in these sales noticed something unprecedented. Banks slashed prices immediately, a blunt, unapologetic downgrade. Buyers are still paying tens of thousands of yuan, yet banks cut prices by 27% right from the start. About 75% of these homes aren't rare, and even small counties are offering discounts. The banks that once lent money for mortgages have now become the country's largest landlords overnight. The housing market in Beijing, Shanghai, and other major cities is collapsing at lightning speed. Homeowners are rushing to sell, cutting prices drastically just to escape losses. Apartments that once sold for millions are now offered at half the price. Banks are joining the frenzy, unloading thousands of units in massive discounts. Even prime locations are no longer safe. Buyers are hesitant, fearing further drops. Streets are quiet, commercial areas empty, and ghostly buildings dominate the skyline. Developers are caught in brutal price wars, unable to stabilize the market. The era of skyrocketing property values is over. Panic and desperation now rule China's real estate. Four major industrial and agricultural construction companies, local city merchants, and agricultural credit institutions are all dumping homes on the market. Banks across China are selling properties directly from green warehouses, unloading entire buildings as if a storm had hit. Sichuan Agricultural Credit System listed 24,000 units in one sweep, Guangdong 12,000, and Liaoning 11,000. To put it in perspective, this is like releasing the entire stock of a mid-sized real estate giant all at once. Prices are staggering. Some homes with a market value of 2 million yuan were launched at 1.5 million, instantly slashed up to 75%. Think about this. When banks, the most conservative, financially cautious institutions, start selling houses without hesitation, what does it signal? The second-hand housing market is collapsing. The wolf has arrived, and this is just the first wave. More chaos is coming. Many owners are selling homes far below their true value, sometimes even covering losses themselves. And it gets worse. Banks are also selling second-hand homes, leaving no reason to wait. Escape is urgent. Services for buyers are failing, and housing prices are set to dive even further. The scale is mind-blowing. In Harbin, a 176 square meter unit sold for only 315,000 yuan, just 800 yuan per square meter, while similar units in the same community are priced at a minimum of 3,700 yuan. Mr. Wang, a real estate consultant from Hefei, warns that banks are selling homes directly because 60% of their loans are tied up in real estate. With foreclosures surging, bad debts rise, threatening systemic financial collapse. If banks didn't act, the market and perhaps the entire economy would crumble. When that day comes, ordinary people might not even afford basic necessities. Beijing has seen a rapid price decline in the past 2 months. In October alone, property prices, sales areas, and newly launched developments all fell, reflecting a clear downward spiral, mirrored by industrial production and PPI trends. Some of the lowest income communities saw prices plummet from 38,000 yuan per square meter to just 10,000. A 76 square meter, 2-unit property on Shuangqiao Chaoyang East Martial Arts Ring now costs under 1 million yuan. These aren't remote areas, elevators, busy streets, but homes are tiny and still crashing in value. A property that once sold for 6 million yuan is now down to 4 million. The conversation has shifted. No longer is it about potential growth. Now it's about which properties will fall hardest. This year's housing crash is historic. Previously, falling prices mainly hurt profits, and sellers could cut losses. Now leverage is gone. Mobility is near zero. Houses bought for 7 million yuan in 2017 are worth only 300,000 yuan today. One property in Nanjing's Huarong International Community, bought in 2021 for 4.25 million yuan, sold for just 950,000 yuan by October 2025. Sichuan Agricultural Bank sold 240,000 units overnight, with other banks following closely. Homes that were 1 million yuan just months ago now sell for 750,000. a 25% drop in 6 months, and that's before factoring in the negative news. Even villas in northern Beijing are collapsing. Double villas that once sold for 5-6 million yuan now fetch barely over 2 million. The housing market is unraveling faster than anyone could have imagined, and it's only just beginning. The housing market in China is collapsing at a speed no one expected. In Yuanhe, upper city prices plummeted from 28,000 to 14,000 yuan per square meter. Chixinfang and Gusu saw a drop from 32,000 to 18,900 yuan. Gaoti's new city fell from over 30,000 to just 15,600. Meanwhile, Zhuguan's 12,000 yuan properties are completely ignored. No buyers in sight. Even my own apartment, a 118 square meter, 3-bedroom unit, lost nearly 30% of its value, falling from 4.9 million yuan last year to 3.5 million yuan now. And the trend shows no sign of stopping. Banks are aggressively selling homes directly, and the looming national real estate tax adds more pressure. Prices are plunging not just in Tier 1 cities, but also across secondary and tertiary markets, for both new developments and existing properties. Some of Beijing's supposed cheapest communities are experiencing the harshest collapses. Units once priced at 37,500 yuan per square meter are now half that. Banks selling homes at extreme discounts have shattered the already weak pricing system. Mr. Zhang Jifeng from Xi'an noted that bank-sold houses are often cut by about 30%. Yet even these discounted prices fail to cover the bank's debts. The problem isn't just pricing, it's panic. Mr. Chen, director of Shenzhen Real Estate, explains that low prices create false expectations. Sellers fear prices will fall further, buyers fear the same, and the market freezes. Wang He adds that both banks' liquidity and the entire Chinese economy are being tested. The CCP cannot fix this. Protecting banks from bankruptcy would require massive money printing, which weakens citizens' purchasing power while driving prices higher. Without intervention, bank collapses could trigger an economic explosion. Already in 2024, 199 small and medium banks were canceled, surpassing totals from 2021-2022, and 357 banks are now considered high risk. Shanghai has seen similar chaos. Houses once valued at 6 million yuan dropped to 4 million in just 6 months. Shenzhen's long-stable housing market is now crumbling. Longhua and Longgang districts fell sharply. Futian and Nanshan lost over 75% in value. Township housing markets are in complete disarray, with developers fighting brutal price wars. In Guangming, units that once cost 1 million yuan now go for only 246,000 yuan. Even properties that were considered resistant to market swings could not survive. Chengdu faces the same chaos. Some houses are now virtually unsellable, even with foreign interest. Sea View properties at Shandong's Lushan City Inn, beautifully decorated, sell for only a few thousand yuan. Streets, commercial areas, and roads are deserted. Small and medium high-rise buildings are plentiful, yet most remain unsold. China's housing market is flooded. With 1.4 billion people, there are enough homes for 6 billion if we assume 10 per building. The market is oversaturated, retail buyers are exhausted, and prices continue to fall. The collapse is not slowing, it's accelerating, and the consequences for home owners, banks, and the entire economy could be catastrophic. Now China's economy is plunging at an unprecedented rate. The housing market in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou is collapsing, with homeowners racing to sell and banks dumping thousands of units at rock-bottom prices. Luxury apartments and city center units are losing value by half, while secondary cities see property values crash even faster. Developers are facing bankruptcy, unable to pay debts or complete projects. Ghost cities are rising as commercial areas empty out. Banks and investors are frozen in panic, fearing further losses. The collapse of real estate is sending shockwaves through the financial system. Ordinary families see their life savings evaporate almost overnight. It's not just real estate. China's industrial sector is hemorrhaging. Factories across electronics, steel, automotive, and textile industries are closing down in waves. Millions of workers are being laid off as production halts, and smaller companies cannot survive rising debts. Supply chains are breaking, exports are falling, and warehouses overflow with unsold goods. Industrial output is plunging, while local governments struggle to prevent mass bankruptcies. Foreign investors are fleeing, and confidence in the economy is evaporating. Even previously stable manufacturing hubs like Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and Chengdu are in crisis. The domino effect is relentless, threatening the nation's economic backbone. The social impact is just as alarming. Migrant workers are abandoning cities, returning to rural areas as jobs vanish and wages go unpaid. Unemployment rates are soaring, especially among youth and low-skilled labor. Small businesses, retail shops, and service industries are shutting down one after another. Streets in once bustling districts are eerily empty. Local economies are collapsing under the weight of unpaid rents and frozen loans. Families struggle to survive as savings vanish and loans remain unpaid. The crisis is creating waves of social unrest, fear, and uncertainty across the country. China's economic engine is stalling, and no sector seems safe from the crash.